So as you guys know, I've been talking about the midterms since last year. And who would I be to not then give you the content that you need that's going to discuss all the things that you need to know regarding the midterms? For those that don't know, midterm elections is referring to the elections that happen for Congress, okay? And we've been discussing it. While we were discussing elections last year, there were a lot of you guys that were like, what about my state? What about my state? This is the content to help with that. Okay. So if you were somebody that hopped into the videos and was like, well, what about my state? Do we have any votes coming up? And you were like, you can't find it. You can't do a thing. These videos are for you. If you're seeing this on TikTok, this is probably Midterm Monday, and that's where you'll see these videos. However, if you would like to see all of the videos more in a bulk fashion, they will all be uploaded majority in bulk fashion on my podcast. And you can listen to my podcast various different ways. You can listen to it on YouTube. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to it on Podbean, which is my actual service that I utilize to platform myself. There's a lot of different ways that you'll be able to get this content. But if you'd like the content in bulk, then I suggest that you go head over to my podcast. You'll be able to get more episodes at a time as opposed to one every Monday for Midterm Monday. So let's get into these midterm elections. Midterm elections will be happening this year, November 2026. And Congress is divided into two different chambers. You have the Senate and the House of Representatives. There are some differences between the two, and I think that we should cover it so that you understand more about Congress, more about the implications of your voting, and just have a better understanding about how government works, okay? So the Senate is different than the House of Representatives. The Senate has 100 seats. How you get into the Senate, each state, 2 representatives, pretty standard. In the House of Representatives, there are 435 seats. How do we choose how many seats are in the House of Representatives? It is going to be based off of your population. For those of you guys that are history buffs, then you should know something about the compromise between the Philadelphia Compromise, which ended up leading to us having this kind of 2 different ways of approaching Congress. All right. So with that being said, how many years do senators tend to serve? Senators serve for 6 years. House of Representatives, they serve 2 years. Senate is 6. House of Representatives is 2. Because there are 6 years of service in the Senate, when it comes to re-election, midterm elections, they are divided into class. This class divides the senators based off of when they were voted into the office, when they are sworn in, and when their term ends. So for 2026, we will be voting again on Class 2. Class 2 are comprised of the senators who were voted in November of 2020. They were sworn in and began serving in January of 2021. Therefore, their term ends in January of 2027. That's when their 6 years conclude. For House of Representatives, all 435 seats are up for re-election every 2 years. Every 2 years. So there's going to be less senators that are up for re-election than there are House of Representatives. And so specifically for 2026, there are going to be 33. There's going to be 33 senators that are going to be up for re-election. 13 of them are Democrats. 20 of them are Republicans. Okay. The first person that we're going to cover is going to be Senator Cory Booker. Now, there's something that you must understand when we get into these conversations. The main priority for anyone who is going to be voted into Congress is to take care of their constituents. Their constituents are the people back home who voted for them. That is the only way that they get into Congress. And so they are their main priority. But once they get into Congress, they must also join the broader narrative for the party that they are a part of. Okay, so this is where all of us becomes impacted. And the reality is that what might be good for their constituents may not be good for the broader America. That's what makes this a little bit difficult. And it can lead to some frustrations just across the United States about who we like versus who we do not like. So please understand that if you are a constituent of Senator Cory Booker or of anybody else that I speak about, understand I am not. And I understand if you like people that I personally may not find great. That's perfectly fine. As a constituent, they are supposed to help support you first. Now, where we may differ is that sometimes you may like somebody who does not do well for you. And that's where I'm going to be like, friend, they ain't treated you right. Why are you still going out with them? That's crazy. Anywho, let's go ahead and cover Senator Cory Booker. Senator Cory Booker is a Democrat. He is from New Jersey. He is the committee chair for strategic communications for the Senate, specifically for the Democratic Party. And when you're in a leadership position, and if you're in a committee or a subcommittee, your role is to more so set the strategy in that particular area for the party, not necessarily introduce laws or introduce policies. However, Cory Booker has been an author, a co-author, or introduced 12 bills that did become law. Okay. So he has, done things like introducing new policy that has been adopted. And 12 is a really big deal because a lot of them do not actually make it. A lot of them tend to not, become law, as we all know. Just because the process is rigorous, there's a lot of people that disagree on some of the things that may be addressed inside of the policy. And that's perfectly fine. That's where you have politics and becoming and being able to negotiate across the lines to be able to get policies passed. Okay. But he does have a focus on particular areas. The top 4 areas that he tends to make legislation around would be health, criminal law enforcement, agriculture and food consumption or food related topics, as well as education. Those are his top 4 topics of expertise. Now, for those that may not know a lot about the history of Cory Booker, you probably heard about him because he broke the record for the longest speech in the Senate at 25 hours. As for me, if you've been following me for a long time, you understand that for me, Cory Booker's antics aren't really my favorite. And a lot of people were talking about he's filibustering, but my issue was the fact that he was not filibustering. He had those people in watch night service. Why wasn't he filibustering? He wasn't filibustering because he wasn't blocking a vote on a law. Okay. There was no bill that was on its way up that needed to have a vote, and he just decided to hold it so that it couldn't pass. That's not what was happening. Those people went in one day to work. They thought they were going to be able to leave work at a reasonable time. And he said, no, pitch a tent. Get yourself a sleeping bag. I got things to say. Okay. That's really what ended up happening there. What you have to understand is that there are some things that are just symbolic in nature. And so there is capital that is gained from doing things like this. It may not come from me, but if it works for the broader majority of the American people to see the people that they elect working for them, or at least be able to understand their stance on certain things, that is always helpful. But for me, I'm not really an antics type person. I need real motion. Doesn't mean that Cory Booker is not good in his spot or as a senator. No, that is not what that means. What I'm here to do is to give you some information about who's up for re-election, what it is that they have done, and possibly to be able to help you in your decision-making process. I will not tell you who to vote for or who not to vote for. But one thing I will always tell you is go blue. Because once again, we do not have time to keep on putting up with these Republicans.